Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Let's get into solving a problem. The other day I was cutting 3/4 inch planks from a 21-inch log. Originally I was just going to cut the last board at 1.5 inches and make some 2x4s. But when the board started finishing up at around 19 inches wide and looking fabulous, I really wanted to cut all of the boards to the 3/4 inch. That's where the problem came in. Every sawmill has a minimum blade height. On some sawmills, it's a hard stop built into the lifting mechanism. On others, like mine, it's the lowest the blade will go without some part of the carriage hitting some part of the bed. On my mill, like on most mills, that limit is about 1 inch. I wanted to cut the last board at 3/4 inch, a full 1/4 inch below the mill's minimum blade height. Here's how I got around the problem. I set the third last board beside the mill, as I would need it in a moment. I set the mill at 3/4 inch and marked the final cut by nudging into the remnant with the blade running, just a 1/2 inch or so. On my mill, the adjustable blade guide arm runs into the log bunk at about 1 inch. But between the bunks, I can cut below the minimum. I can't go past the bunks at lower than 1 inch, but I can cut up to the first bunk below that limit. So marking the board at 3/4 inch isn't a problem. If your mill won't let you do that, you can use this technique. You just have to skip this step and do some math a little later on. Next, I slipped the third last board under the remnant and raised the dogs and clamps so that they were grabbing the bottom 1/2 inch of the remnant. Next, I raised the blade so that it slipped easily into the cut I had made to mark the final cut. If you couldn't mark that remnant, add the thickness of the third last board to the thickness you want and set your mill to that height. Then it's just a matter of starting the mill and making that final cut. I got 2 useful 19-inch wide boards instead of a couple of unneeded 2x4s. I hope you find this technique useful, and thanks for watching.
And that's how you cut below your minimum depth.